I recently put up a video asking for spiritual experiences and people to relate to spiritual experiences, and thanks for those that did. I also got some responses that were a bit annoyed, and on the one hand, I think some of those responses are I expect from people that take their atheism as a sort of a anti-spiritual dogma, and they're just going to object that I'm even addressing ideas of spirituality at all. But I also got a response from ssanf, who seemed to be annoyed that I was asking because she thought that as a non-believer I probably have an ulterior motive. I just want to destroy these ideas. And I understand the hesitancy. I am going to take someone's spiritual experiences, and if they interpret them metaphysically, I'm going to remove that. I do not believe there's going to be a material explanation for spirituality that involves metaphysics. And I just think metaphysics is bullshit, because if it can't interact with us, then what's the point of talking about it? How could it possibly explain anything? You know, if God is interacting with us, that could be possible, but then God is physical because we're physical. And to interact with a physical thing, you need to be physical, and that's that. But on the other hand, I don't have an ulterior motive because, you know, when I look at knowledge, we're not starting from a blank slate. We often want to pretend we're starting from a blank slate and then we're saying, what do we know, and we're building up. No, we wake up in this universe, we already have knowledge, and we're trying to explain it. We already have spiritual experiences. We're trying to explain them. So I'm just going to try to explain them. I'm going to automatically give them credence. You see, you had the experience. If you thought it was metaphysical, fine, but I don't think it was metaphysical, but I still think you had the experience. I want to get at the core of what that experience really is about, and it's not going to be about something metaphysical, because nothing is about anything metaphysical. So I have great confidence that we can have this explanation. You know, it's possible some people would go through the same process just to try to say that spiritual experiences are somehow fundamentally illusions. I think the part where we interpret it as metaphysics is an illusion of some sort, but I don't think that the whole experiences are an illusion. I think the experiences play a role, just like most of our emotional experiences can be traced back to survival issues in evolutionary biology, and also what the DNA can be thought of as, you know, wanting. So I think there is a role for spirituality. I fully expect that an investigation into spiritual experiences will help show what that purpose is. I also want to talk really quickly about some miscommunication that ssanf and I are possibly having, and just also a difference of opinion that is important to clarify. First of all, when I talk about everything that interacts with us being physical, I'm not saying it's matter. You know, I'm saying this in the sense that energy is physical. Okay, you know, we used to think there was a fundamental distinction between this material matter stuff and energy. Energy somehow seemed ethereal, you know, maybe godlike, maybe a pure form type thing. Then we started to realize, well, no, photons and light, you know, these have to be physical. They're interacting with physical things. Then we discovered that actually they're the same thing. E equals mc squared, energy and mass are the same thing. They're just in different forms. So all of that stuff is material. And that's the sense I'm talking about. Everything that interacts with something material is material. Okay, it's part of the material world. So that's one thing that's important to understand in the way I'm using the words. Two, ssanf said something that's sort of a pet peeve of me, that we must have the same definition of terms or else communication is impossible. Well, we have to have some overlap in our terms, but obviously we don't have to have perfect overlap, because nobody does have perfect overlap. We all do understand our words differently, and yet there is some sort of communication. Yes, it does mean that there's a possibility of miscommunication if we all don't have the same exact definition of words, but guess what? Look around you. There's no shortage of miscommunication to help you understand that people have different definitions, and this is one of the sources of miscommunication. Now, at the beginning of a conversation, we can do work to help force an overlap in certain areas of the way we're using language, and I support that. But this rigid idea that the definitions of words are set in stone or have to mean a very particular thing in order for communication to happen is just not correct. There just has to be a little bit of overlap. We can increase that overlap through conversation. The idea that we're supposed to have that overlap ahead of time by just all adopting what a dictionary author says is not going to hold water. And also, please, everybody, keep in mind, people that write dictionaries are not experts in other technical fields. The people that write dictionary definitions for a philosophy term are not the world's best philosophers. For a psychology term, are not the world's best psychologists. For a physics term, are not the world's best physicists. Okay? No expert goes to the dictionary for their final definition. You go to a dictionary when you have no clue what something means and you're trying to get a glimmer, a hook in, and then you can start to learn what a word really means when other people are using it. But you can't go to the dictionary and get this final definition, because that's not what dictionaries are there for. It's also not what encyclopedias are there for. You don't go to these things as the final arbiter of what's real. You go to them when you have no clue and you're trying to get a glimmer of the beginning of a clue. So don't use a dictionary as your final arbiter. Go ahead and go there to get an idea of what the word might mean, a general idea of how it might be used in natural language. But ultimately, to find out what a term really does mean or should mean, you're going to have to go beyond the dictionary into the experts of that field or your own experience. Cheers.